Remember the good old days when Russia was the world's favorite punching bag? After the Ukraine war debacle, the largest country on earth, was exiled from the global economy like an unruly guest at a posh dinner party. Oil deals blocked, defense contracts shattered, and the grandest insult of them all, being kicked out of the SWIFT payment system. If the economy had a spine, this was a full-fledged fracture. Washington, of course, pat itself on the back. Enter buffoon Biden, blissfully unaware that in trying to cripple Russia, he might have cracked upon Pandora's box instead. Because Russia did what Russia does best. It adapted. The dollar monopoly was suddenly under siege. And as the ruble experiment started gaining traction, NATO found itself breaking into nervous sweat. But fear not, dear viewers, for the cavalry has arrived, or at least that's what they'd like you to believe. Trump is back in the White House, and now here comes the frantic damage control. The only problem that not everyone is on the table with Trump's idea. The US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has confirmed that Washington is considering easing certain sanctions on Moscow, including a potential reconnection of Russian banks to the Belgium-based SWIFT network. Everything is on the table, Bessent told Fox News, emphasizing that the future sanction policy will depend upon Russia's next move. Major Russian banks were cut off from the SWIFT payment system as a part of the Western sanctions, which intensified after the Ukraine war escalated in 2022. However, during the ceasefire discussion in Saudi Arabia last week, Moscow pushed for the reinstatement of its agricultural bank, Roselkhozbank, and other financial institutions linked to food and fertilizer export to this system. Also reconnecting the Roselkhozbank was initially promised under the 2022 Black Sea Grain Initiative, brokered by the UN and Turkey. However, Russia abandoned the agreement in 2023 after Biden and Ukraine tried their best to escalate the war as soon as possible. The talks in Saudi Arabia revived the negotiation, with President Donald Trump confirming that his administration is assessing multiple conditions for lifting some restriction. "We are looking at all of them," he stated. However, despite the Washington's reconsideration, several Washington elites, also the European Union elites, or we can simply say the deep state, is quite adamant and opposing all this. EU stands firm on Russian sanctions, and it is demanding a full military withdrawal before any move. The European Union, after United States' indications, reaffirmed that it will not lift or amend any sanction on Russia unless Moscow fully withdraws its forces from Ukraine. The statement followed discussions in Saudi Arabia, where Russia pushed for sanction relief as a part of the proposed Black Sea ceasefire with the US officials. Moscow, for its part, insists that any agreement must include the removal of Western sanctions impacting the agricultural export, particularly those restricting the state-owned lenders. The bank, sanctioned by the EU in 2022, remains cut off from the SWIFT international payment system even today. The European Commission spokesperson Anita Hipper made it clear that the unconditional withdrawal of all Russian military forces from the entire territory of Ukraine will be one of the most preconditions to amend or lift sanctions. While the EU was not directly involved in the discussions, Hipper emphasized that Russia must show genuine political will to end its illegal and unprovoked war of aggression, as if the European Union isn't allowing Ukraine to do the same. So as you can see, the diplomatic efforts continue. The divide between Russian demand and the EU stance still remains there, with sanctions serving as a key pressure point in the ongoing geopolitical standoff. Putin argues that Western sanctions are a long-term tool of strategic pressure, claiming that they have only strengthened the Russian economy by fostering self-reliance, and Trump knows this very best, and he's trying his best to keep dollar dominant for at least the next few decades, because the European Union seems to be in complete mood to destroy it all. With over 28,500 sanctions and still counting imposed on Russia, more than any other country, Washington's next move will mark a significant shift in the ongoing economic standoff, a move that European Union may not accept with open heart.